Yo, what's good, YouTube? This is Jay from TNJ, and welcome back to the New Orleans Kings franchise as we recap Season 2. You know, we kind of got through this season a lot of gameplay, and it kind of took a little more time than what I expected to get it through because I didn't expect us to be this good. 88-74 on the year. We end up clinching the AL West and the first playoff berth here in this series in only 2 seasons. I am very, very surprised at that. We turned this team around quite quickly, and now, I mean, going into the playoffs, we face a very good Yankees team in the ALDS, so we definitely have our work cut out for us. Now, if we wouldn't have won the division, we wouldn't have made the playoffs because the AL wild card was won by 2 98-win teams. I mean, that is just ridiculous. And then just looking at the rest of the divisions around the MLB, 2 98-win teams in the NL Central and the East, as the Reds end up clinching the Central, and then the Rockies clinched the West. The Rockies signed Mookie Betts in the offseason, so they got way stronger there, and that's probably what put them over the top. They finally beat out the Dodgers for that division, but the Dodgers do still looks like they made the playoffs here. They're in a 3-way tie here for the wild card. Wow, I don't even know how that gets played out. I guess it's a playoff game between the bottom 2 and then another wild card game versus, you know, the regular wild card matchup. That would be really interesting to win 2 straight games there. And then looking at the White Sox, I'm surprised that they won 100 wins. They actually traded Moncada to the Tampa Bay Rays. They also have Altuve as well. And they also traded Eloy Jimenez as well. So they are doing extremely well. I mean, 100 wins. I mean, this is probably the most successful I've seen the MLB at all. Because there's that was 4 98-win division leaders. I mean, that's ridiculous. I've never seen that before. So here's Moncada. I mean, let's just see what he is doing with the Rays. He hit 295. I love him. I have never been able to acquire him. I didn't even know he was on the block, to be honest. He actually is hurt as well for the Rays, 1 to 2 months with a shoulder tear. You know, this is just one of those guys that it's a dream to go after this guy. And I don't know, like I've always wanted to play with him. So it's definitely in the back of my head to try and go and get him. He is going into arbitration year. He doesn't even have his contract extension yet. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if I will go after him or not, but I've always wanted to play with him. I do want to see, you know, what it's all about to be with him. So looking at the leaders across the AL, you can just see Vladimir Guerrero won the on-base percentage board. And looking at Mike Trout right there, I mean, this guy should win MVP like almost every year. Just looking at everything, he's pretty much like top 5 in every single statistical category as far as offense goes. And then pitching, it looks like we did have a couple of good pitchers this year, especially Wood, who we signed in the offseason. You can see he was top 3. Look at this. We have 3 of our 4 pitchers in walks allowed in the top 4. Pablo Lopez obviously was hurt. Alex Wood is up there. But look at Alex Wood. He's up there in whip. He's second in the AL in whip with a 108 whip. Garrett Cole, who we will face in Game 1, he had a 107 whip. That's probably going to be the matchup here. Alex Wood versus Garrett Cole, top 2 in whip. That's going to be exciting there in Game 1 in the ALDS. I can't wait for that. And then just looking at the rest of them, pitching war, Cole did lead the AL in pitching war as well. And this is going to be really, really tough. The Yankees are a good team. They're obviously deep at every single position. And they kind of went blow for blow with the Red Sox. The Red Sox made a ton of moves this season to make it to the playoffs, and they failed. So at least to win the division. So looking at the NL and their leaderboards, you know, Alex Bregman going over to the Brewers. He actually is probably going to win the NL MVP as well. And looking at, you know, just who won the MVP for the NL the last 2 years, I believe it was actually Christian Yelich twice in a row, and then now Alex Bregman. So 3 Brewers in a row. So the only injury we have going into the playoffs was Pablo Lopez with that torn labrum. I know that some of you guys pointed out that there is a possibility that sometimes when they get these long-term injuries, the guys just retire. I hope that doesn't happen, because that would suck. This was the guy we traded Kyle Tucker for, and he was one of those guys we got in that package, and he is a young, great pitcher for us. He was doing phenomenal before he got hurt as well. He was going to be up there with Alex Wood. I mean, I don't think it would have been a close race if we had Pablo Lopez still on our roster as a healthy player. So one thing I did go over Justin Thompson right there, and the reason why is because I did not add him to the active roster before September 1st. So that means that he is not eligible for the playoff roster unless somebody gets hurt. So that's going to kind of suck, because I was going to depend on him to kind of platoon in that leadoff role, because he does start out games pretty well, getting on. He's a great leadoff hitter, only hitting 200, but he gets on quite a bit. So let's look at our stats here for all of our roster. David Bodie led our team in average, 331. How is he not in MVP consideration? I mean, you can just see we traded for him with that 5-year, $15 million contract. He's now in the second year of that. And just looking at what he's done, he's 27, still young, still doing extremely well. And this was obviously the best year of his career. I'm hoping that, he stays above 300 for the next few years, and he keeps hitting that well, because if he can hit that well, I think he's going to be solidified as that number 3 hitter for us. I'm not really sure, because I do like him in his current role when he hits in the 2 spot, and sometimes when I even have him in the 5 spot, I like him there as well. Now, Raimel Tapia, since moving him up, hit over 300. I really like what he did, and look at his progression. He was about 72 overall. He's definitely exceeded that. Now he's up to 75, and he's 27 years old, so he's still got some youth left in him. Jake Cave we acquired at the deadline. You can see his power. I am looking forward to having him probably in the corner infield or corner outfield. And, Puig is a guy that's going to probably be walking in free agency. I went all in for the playoffs. That's the reason why I didn't trade him. I know some of you guys were saying to trade him, but I went all in the playoffs. So I kept him, and I traded Jake Cave, another bat in the lineup, another lefty. And I like what he did. So we'll see what he does in the future. Now, Jesus Aguilar does have the power, but this year he hit for the average, 289. Last year hitting 302. I was hoping that he would hit up there, and he did. He's 30 years old. He's got one more year left on his deal. I am excited for him for first base, because I don't really have anybody else that's kind of a first baseman. Corey Lee is a catcher. He can also play first base. But besides that, I don't really have any, just pure first baseman that I can really depend on as far as power in the lineup. Now, Marcus Semien hit about 10 or 11 points lower than his average the last 3 seasons, 285, 3 straight years. He hits 274 this year. Nothing really to go over with him. Reese McGuire, in limited time this season with us, he hit pretty well. I mean, he hit around, I think with us, he hit around 270. That's not bad at all. And if I can get that production out of a backup catcher, I'll take it every day. Now, Yasiel Puig, his average did dip down as the season went on. He ended up finishing 269, and his OPS was 779. It wasn't a great season. Obviously, he started out fast, but he definitely went cold the last couple of months. He had his moments, but definitely did not live up to those first few months of the season. Now, Scooter Gennett, it was kind of the same story. He started out pretty hot as well and kind of cooled off, but he's never been that type of player. He's always been really, really streaky, and you can see that clutch rating is at 92. I'm definitely looking forward to using that in the playoffs, but besides that, he made a ton of errors, to be honest. His fielding's only at 62. I didn't even realize his throw power was as high as it was, but I am definitely looking forward to kind of getting a better glove there at second, and then maybe moving Scooter to more of a DH spot, because I don't think he's the option at second base. Now, Corey Lee, the young catcher, he hit about 246 on the year. That's actually not too bad. It's not great either, but he's a rookie. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from him. I'm expecting a year 2 jump, though, and I'm expecting him to maybe hit about 280 or so, 275 or so, somewhere around where Marcus Semien finished up. If I can get that production out of him, even better in year 2. If that, it will be amazing to see him develop. His hitting zones are still blue, though. I don't know what it is about that. Maybe he just needs to go on some hit streaks and hit the ball well. I'm not really sure. Now, the most disappointing player this season was Clint Frazier. I signed him in the offseason to a 5-year extension worth $15 million. He has not lived up to that at all. He hit terribly this year, and that's the reason why I have not been showing him on videos. He's been getting benched. I mean, he's a backup now, and I don't know what's going on with him, but hopefully next year he recovers. I'm going to need him in the playoffs. He's not a great fielder, but that arm 92 throw power is going to be useful. I will hopefully pinch hit him in situations and he comes through. We'll have to see. I'm not really sure. He's probably going to play a little bit more since Justin Thompson is not eligible for the playoffs. So we'll have to keep our eye on him. Like I said, he hit 220s. I mean, that's not acceptable, especially for a guy that I just paid. And honestly, he's one of the highest paid guys on our entire roster because we don't have much of a budget. Now, Justin Thompson hit about 200. I'm not really worried about it at all because, like I said, I moved him up late in the season and kind of just threw him into the fire. He did pretty well. He's still progressing, so I'm looking forward to his season too. I think that's going to be his full rookie year as well, so he will be rookie eligible next year. So looking at Tim Beckham, we moved him up for a few games, and hopefully I can get some, playoff production out of Billy Hamilton because he's going to need to step up there at that leadoff spot more than likely. Now, pitching-wise, Alex Wood went 17-5, 108 whip. He was amazing this year. I did not expect him to be that good, but he was, and I'm really proud of that signing. Ryan Stanek was one of the guys we got in the Kyle Tucker trade, along with Pablo Lopez, and he did all right. He had a 143 whip. That's really high, actually. Went 13-4 though for some reason. He actually had the most inning pitched. One of the most inning pitched out of the bullpen, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do because if he doesn't improve, he might be a guy that we might have to move as well. Now, Joe Smith was our closer in season 1. Moving him to the bullpen didn't work out as well. He had a 145 whip. Hopefully he does better in the playoffs. Jose Urquidy did okay. He did better than last year, but I'm just not completely sold on Urquidy. I mean, just looking at him, he had a 130 whip. He did finish with a 9-10 record, which, is, it is what it is. 142 strikeouts, 43 walks. He gave up only 20 home runs, though, which is pretty good. And I will see what he does with his development. He's a potential and 25 years old. He definitely has a lot of trade value. Now, Craig Stammen is 37 years old. He had a good year this year, 117 whip. He's historically the last couple of years done really well, so I'm not surprised to see him do that. Rowan Wick was a guy we acquired at the trade deadline, 122 whip. He came over from the Cubs, and we kind of put him into the bullpen, maybe more of a setup role, and he did all right. 122 whip, not too bad, better than at least Joe Smith did, and some other guys out of our bullpen did as well. Now, Forrest Whitley in limited action, he went 3-4 in 52 innings pitched. He had 58 strikeouts to 15 walks. That's a pretty good ratio. And then looking at Luke O'Connor, who was another young prospect of ours who did really well in spring training, and he kind of lived up to the hype at the MLB level. You can see his whip was under 1, but only 22 innings pitched. We kind of limited him there because he wasn't a high overall guy, but he did pretty good. Now, Nate Jones ended up finishing with 46 saves. I believe that's only 4 behind Aroldis Chapman, who we're going up against in this next series, and I think that Chapman did lead the at least AL in saves. I'm not sure if he led the MLB. Chris Davinsky is a guy that does pretty well for us. This year he didn't, though. 155 whip in 38 innings and then 41 strikeouts to 14 walks. That's not a bad ratio, but I was hoping for more from him. Now, top prospects at the end of the year, Jeremy Pena, I believe, started out the year as the number 3 prospect in baseball, but he hasn't really produced at all. So he kind of dropped down to 5, and then he dropped way down to 8. You can just see the guys around him who have passed him up. They're all younger, and he's getting a little older now because looking at him, he's 23 years old. Next year, he'll be 24. I think he'll be the oldest prospect in the top 10 looking at other ages, so he'll be tied with a few other guys, but I don't think he's ready to be moved up yet. I mean, I still think he needs a year or a half a year to develop. I'm not seeing that production out of him. Maybe what I can do is just move him up next year and see what he's got. Just throw him into the fire because right now he's not really showing much promise in the minor leagues. Maybe he's a guy that does better at the major league level than he will in the minors, but right now, I mean, it's something that I'm pretty concerned about because he's one of our top prospects. If I can't get anything out of him right now, then why not trade him and get more value out of him? I guess we'll have to see. Now, let's look at the awards here at the end of the regular season. Luis Severino, who is the MVP, he will be another guy we face. So Garrett Cole and Severino will be, they will be dominant, and I am expecting them to be really challenging to face. Hunter Renfroe was up there in the AL MVP voting, and looking at him, he had 41 home runs. I didn't realize his power versus left was at 99, but he hit 277 with 41 home runs. That's a great season from him. Now, looking at the batting title, and it looks like Jorge Polanco does finish with the batting title in the AL. Chapman does get reliever of the year, 50 saves, 2 blown saves. That is amazing. I actually think that one of those blown saves were versus us, so I think we actually contributed to that stat. Tanner Tully, though, beats out our man Corey Lee for Rookie of the Year, and he had a good year, 15 and 6, 127 whip, so I guess he deserved it over Corey Lee, who hit 247. If he would have hit a little higher, maybe it would have been better, but I think that the Boston Red Sox rookie did deserve it there. Now, here's Mike Trout. He wins another award. He's still at 99 overall. It says he went down. I don't know what he went down from, but he's still at 99 overall. He is still probably the best player in baseball right now, but he wins the Hank Aaron Award for the second straight season. And let's just look at all of the Gold Gloves. We won't really spend too much time here, but I do want to see if any of our guys won any Gold Gloves, and it doesn't look like it in the infield. I wouldn't expect that anyway, and I wouldn't expect it in outfield either. I don't think we had many defensive guys and defensive stoppers. Byron Buxton wins it in center field, and Aaron Judge wins it in right field. Now, looking at Silver Slugger, I think we should win it at third base. I guess we'll have to see. Grandal wins it. Gary Sanchez won it at catcher. Jose Abreu wins it at first. Altuve at second, he hit 297. And then you can just see some Yankees players up here. They're doing extremely well. And I did not even see, Bodie didn't win it, I guess. So I guess he did not win the Silver Slugger in the infield. So that kind of sucks. And then going over to the NL, you can see their awards here. Bregman wins the batting title, and that's the thing that I was saying. I was saying that maybe not the MVP, but the batting title. Christian Yelich, and Alex Bregman. They just win it 4 years in a row, looking at them, and they have just been dominating there in Milwaukee. And then looking at Rookie of the Year, looks like Lewin Diaz from the Marlins wins it. Gold Glove, Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate. Nolan Arenado at third base, no surprise there. Harrison Bader in center field. And then let's look at the Silver Sluggers, and it looks like Greinke wins it for a pitcher. He's really good at hitting the ball as a pitcher. And looking at Alex Bregman, he wins it. Keston Hiura wins it at second base. The Brewers are just winning all types of offensive awards here. And just looking at their dominance, Hiura hit 268, and Mike Moustakas was right behind him. Bregman hit 369. That is just ridiculous. Soto actually won the MVP, I believe, in the NL. So that's a big year for him. How did he beat out Alex Bregman, who hit 346? That's ridiculous. Mookie Betts wins it for the first year with the Rockies. He hit 319 in back-to-back years. This one was his career high in home runs as well. 43 home runs, 118 RBIs. 94 strikeouts, 23 stolen bases. He had a great year. Looking at runs, too, he scored over 100 runs for, the 7th straight season now. And just looking at his ratings, he was amazing. And, look at that. It's 98 in discipline, clutch, and contact versus left. How are you getting this guy out? He can do everything, and he's like a Gold Glove fielder as well. That's just ridiculous. So now, preview to the playoff matchup. And just looking at their starting pitching, this is going to be the hill we're going to have to climb. They have 3 guys who are number ones on pretty much every other team. Garrett Cole, Severino, and James Paxton. Those guys are elite. And then they have Jordan Montgomery, who isn't a bad 4 as well. I was looking at him at the trade deadline, and I did not decide to pull the trigger, but that guy is good too. Looking at their offense, Gary Sanchez hit 290. He's at 91 overall. Luke Voigt hit 266. I guess if you had to pick somebody out of the infield who didn't do well, I guess it was him, but 266 is good, to be honest, better than what we have. Gio Urshela hit 325, and actually Miguel Andujar is the backup to him, and this might be a guy we might want to consider maybe dealing for because he is 26 years old and he's a backup, and he's going to be the backup for a while. Jose Iglesias hit 280, so even he hit great. Stanton hit 267. I expect that average to be a lot higher probably in the coming years. Aaron Hicks hit 264, and then Estevan Florio is backing him up. Only at C potential. That could be just a little bit too low for him. I think he has a higher ceiling than that, but he's 22 years old. He'll have time to develop. And then the rich get richer here in right field. Aaron Judge hit over 300. And then they also acquired Trey Mancini at the trade deadline as well. So, I mean, they have a bevy of talent on their roster. So here is what the playoff picture looks like, and we will not face the winner of the AL wild card. We will face the Yankees outright, and it looks like the wild card is Minnesota and Cleveland, and in the NL it is the Dodgers and the Mets. So this is what the playoffs will look like. That's gonna do it here for this episode. I can't wait for the playoffs here in season 2. It's going to be fun. I'll see what the Yankees put up because it's going to be a tough matchup versus them in round 1 in the NLDS. So hit subscribe, hit that like button, stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.
I've been working hard for a minute. The ones who don't deserve it seem to be the ones that get it. The ones who speak the truth never get the recognition, but the ones that act foolish seem to get all the attention. It don't matter though, yeah, and it don't even matter though. Nope.